So welcome to Feature Fridays. My name is Guy Bartram. I'm a product marketing manager for Cloud Director Portfolio. And today we're really happy to be joined with Iyad. So Iyad, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Guy. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, my name is Iyad. I'm actually a lead solution architect within the VMware Cloud Provider Program, covering the METNA region. I've been with VMware for over 10 years and happy to help.
10 years, that's a long tenure. Excellent.
Yeah.
I think I'm 5 years now, so it's time goes quickly, doesn't it?
Tell me about it. I'll see you when you're at 10.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, great. Thanks for joining us today and really appreciate your time. Today, Feature Friday, we're going to talk about Bitnami and App Launchpad. And I know you've got a demo to run through and just a few slides to talk about it. So let's dive straight into it. So yeah, just give us a little bit of a kind of background about Bitnami, what it is, and what it can provide to our service providers.
Yeah, so I already have actually, if you allow me to share my screen, so I'll show you actually a few slides and go through that for a second, which is, oops, trying to do that. All right, yeah,
yep.
So actually, a lot of customers and service providers try to offer or use open source packages a lot of the time, and they try actually to do it themselves. So for example, I was actually trying to install a particular extension for vCloud Director the other day, and it required RabbitMQ. So RabbitMQ is an open source message queuing system, right? I had two routes to do it. I could actually have done an installation of CentOS or some Linux systems, and then put RabbitMQ installation in it, and it would take me about a few hours to get that, assuming I don't run into any issues. The other option I had, I could actually go to the Bitnami catalog, download a pre-packaged application that's actually packaged in a virtual appliance, plug it in, a couple of minutes later, I have my RabbitMQ up and running. So the good news for that, we actually, Bitnami have over 300 applications that they have the same for. 130 of them is deployable directly to vCloud Director that actually our service provider could do directly. They have many others that actually packaged as containers, as well as Helm chart and so on, that others could use for different use cases as well. So, but yeah, and they actually one of the most popular packaging for a packager for open source application out there. I mean, they have over 1 million installed per month that they do. They have over 1.5 billion compute hours per year, which is a huge incentive amount. I mean, that's out there.
So this is all kind of pre-packaged, pre-built, pre-tested applications that a service provider can then download from Bitnami into Cloud Director, into App Launchpad, and we'll talk about how that sync happens in a bit. But this is kind of it's really useful for service provider then to extend their portfolio, right, and be able to offer more differentiated services.
One of the most complaints I used to hear about from cloud providers before is we started with a new catalog and it looks nice and sharp. The portal looks very nice, but I don't have any application to actually go and deploy or supply to my end customer. So what do I do? And if I hire actually tons of developers or done an application packager, that's a lot of cost to me. Then after actually I package these 20 applications, the next month, their vendors actually release a new update. How do I keep them up to date? And that's another amount of resources that need to be there. So I actually start having a conflict between, do I add actually more applications or do actually I maintain the old ones I have? And with Bitnami, actually, you can actually benefit of that because we actually supplying the packaging for the applications, as well we're supplying regular updates for them, not to mention all the testing and scanning for security reasons that we do for you as well.
Okay, and that's really important as well, because obviously when you're getting these open source applications, you know, they are open source. They're not necessarily scanned for security all the time, and people do add to them. So these are pre-tested, right? And they're pre-tested at the application level as well before they're packaged. So Bitnami actually support them and version them.
Exactly. So the nice part, I mean, we test them as well. We make several versions available. So maybe if you don't want to run the latest version just because it's not compatible with the new software you're trying to run, we're actually keeping several versions behind as well. So that's good for any developers or any users who's trying to do that. And as service providers, for them, they can actually offer the latest version of the software as well, multiple versions behind as they see fit.
Okay, and how does a service provider start getting involved with transacting with Bitnami?
Well, I mean, they have to sign up for the subscription of the Bitnami. I mean, costing and so on, I would leave that for the sales teams to actually be discussed between the customer and so on. There's as well some free packages, I mean, that could be downloaded as well. So depending on what's the service provider going to do and how much of a scale they're doing with it.
Okay, so this is a MSP agreement provided by Cloud Provider Hub, and so if a service provider kind of knows what they're doing with the MSP route to market, this is a fairly kind of simple additional transaction, additional service they can start supplying. Okay, so do you have any? It is in Cloud Provider Hub, right? And how does that work?
Well, actually, I'm going to show you a demo in a second how actually our customers, after they have the subscription done through the MSP Hub, how they can actually push these packages to App Launchpad and the Cloud Director as well. So we'll talk about that in a second in the demo. So I think we'll cover that in the demo in a better fashion. And
Okay, sure.
actually, while we're doing that, I actually have a small slide that demonstrates how things are injected to each other's. So actually, before kind of we go in the demo, let's actually look how things are pushed from the cloud providers and how actually things are consumed from our tenants as well. So actually, the provider themselves will actually have to go to the cloud provider hub, and there, I mean, assuming they have their MSP account, they can actually subscribe to MSP subscription of Bitnami. As soon as they do that, actually, in the Bitnami catalog, they will have about 127 applications that's compatible with vCloud Director, and they could push it to vCloud Director with the providing input in a few fields. This actually would take you about 2 minutes since the time you subscribe to actually push an application into vCloud Director App Launchpad. Now, the nice part, all these applications that they push to their vCloud Director is actually maintained in the local repository at the cloud provider. So it's not for every tenant who come in and they want to request that WordPress. The provider have to download that. So it's actually kept in a local repository at the service provider. So the service provider could feel comfortable as well. It saves them a lot of bandwidth and it make it quicker to the end user to use it. Mm-hmm. From an end tenant perspective, they still log into their normal vCloud Director as they ever done before. So nothing have changed for them. They will have a new tab called Marketplace or App Launchpad, and I'll show it in a second in the demo. And in there to load all the applications that their cloud provider have decided to make available to them. So the actually provider could decide which applications is available to which tenants, as well they could decide which tenant get access to App Launchpad in total. So if I want to actually make that as a premium service as a cloud provider, I could do that as well.
So would you describe this more as an application platform as a service offering then that a provider can now basically give a tenant access to a catalog of applications without the tenant having to know anything about the underlying infrastructure that's going to be deployed on?
Yeah, it's actually doing great on that because as well, a lot of the application there is actually developer friendly. So a lot of the stuff that developers are looking for, like Apache, Nginx, and MySQL, MariaDB, and so on. All of that's actually already available in the catalog. So the service provider could offer it to all these developer or end customer right away as an application ready to be used, rather than having to install it from scratch.
And this is one of the things I think that's really interesting. So, you know, we've heard from our cloud providers for quite a few years that they want to go, you know, above the infrastructure level and into, you know, different services. And obviously, you have all of the services like network security and now S3 object storage and container service extension. But getting into the things that kind of provide that next level of capability, like big data analytics, machine learning applications, those type of things, those are also available in the Bitnami community catalog, right? Oh, there you go.
Actually, there's a lot of those are actually already there, like TensorFlow, MXNet, and so on. So there's a lot of those that being useful for our service provider and their end customers to use such services as well. So it's not just limited to basic applications, which is really nice from that perspective.
I think this is really important because, you know, those are the sort of things typically you'd go to like a hyperscale provider for, or you would have to kind of download them and manage them yourself. Now you're getting a pre-packaged, pre-tested, at a click of a button instance of TensorFlow, which you can then kind of start using for your application data and application build. That's fantastic. It means you can, as a developer or as a company with developers, you can do your development in a secure VMware cloud rather than having to do it in a hyperscale cloud.
That's true. I mean, the other thing as well, when you start mentioning about networking services, you remind me one thing is as well. So a lot of end customers as well, when they come traditionally to a cloud provider and they request infrastructure as service, they struggle understanding the networking capabilities and the different infrastructure as service capability in there. Like, what type of storage do I use? What kind of network? What size of virtual machines I want, and all that kind of things. So the App Launchpad, which is we're going to show in the demo in a second, actually allow the service provider to hide all that complexity from the end customer. So they allow them to actually deploy one of these applications just by providing a name for the deployment that they're going to use. So rather than having to understand what network they're going to go to, how does that network connect, what kind of firewalling is doing, and all that stuff could be actually totally hidden from the end user.
Awesome. Like I said, application platform as a service. This is fantastic. Okay, so let's have a little look at how it all hangs together then, from a VCD standpoint and Bitnami standpoint.
All right, so this is the vCloud Director, or Cloud Director now is the new naming, that everybody love and used to, and the interface that everybody know by now. So as you can see, the normal infrastructure as service could be used directly from the same interface, but if I want to do it to the marketplace of the App Launchpad, all I have to do is actually head in the App Launchpad under the More menu.
And how's that? Sorry, just to back up a little bit, how does that actually appear in that menu? Is that a plugin that needs to get deployed?
Yeah, so actually there's a small virtual machine that you have to create, and you have to install the App Launchpad in it. Then after that, you have actually an extension that you have to install in vCloud Director, and that's you have to do, of course, on the provider side. Then after that, you actually have to decide which tenants. After that, you have to start publishing or pushing applications into your App Launchpad, and those applications could come from different sources. It could be third-party ISPs. It actually could be some stuff that's actually written or customized by the local provider themselves, or we can push the Bitnami application to them. So on the demo here, I'm going to show probably how we're going to do it through the Bitnami catalog, but I think we probably should create another video in the future to show a provider how they could publish their own packages into it.
So that's really important. So what we're saying then basically is, as a provider, you can download this. It's free, App Launchpad. You download the appliance, install the plugin, configure it, do the configuration, expose it to tenants, but then you can also extend beyond the Bitnami catalog, put in your own homegrown applications and also third party. So this could be the one-stop shop basically for this type of service.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, cool.
All right, and the nice part, all of them will show up on the same marketplace here, as you can see. So for an end-to-end experience, it's pretty nice. I could see all the application that my cloud provider made available to me in here. Mm-hmm. The other thing, actually, the cloud provider could decide the most common applications and make them featured for the customer. Actually, the nice part that when I show you the back end or like what the service provider view look like, in the service provider view, they can actually tell which application is most used by their customers. So they probably could actually put them in the feature section for new customers to kind of see them right away. Here actually you see like I have published about 10 applications into my catalog. It took me about 2 minutes to actually publish each of them. I just had to go to the Bitnami website, say subscribe, and push it in. And I could decide from there like how many versions I want to keep. So for example, I'm keeping 2 different versions of the MongoDB in here. And that's why you see it twice in there.
I see.
Deploying an application from this is actually the part I really love, because a lot of customers, as I mentioned, they don't want to understand what's happening in the background, what's network they're deploying to, what storage, what's org VDC they're doing, and all that kind of things, right? Or like what a VApp and all those kind of things. So the nice part, App Launchpad actually allow the end customer to deploy things just by entering a name into it. So let's call this one maybe Tech Friday 01. Maybe say WordPress, just WP, so we know what it is. And we hit launch application. So that's all I had actually to fill for the application to get deployed. Now you actually might question like where's those where's all the other inputs that required? Like how did it decide what org VDC it's using, what do you call, what network it's using, what size of a VM it's using, and so on. Where's that information is coming from? So actually, when I show the cloud provider portal, I'll show you that the cloud provider could choose defaults that could be used by their customers when they deploy without providing information. So it's up to the cloud provider to decide what size their customer going to use by default, what network their VM land into, and so on. So it actually make it easier for the provider to go and do things specifically as needed. All right, so as you can see now, my Tech Friday application WordPress actually got deployed. So if I needed to actually power it on and so on, I could just run it from there. So the customer now could see actually their application that's been deployed in their environment. They could manage them with most of the functions they need on a daily basis. So they can power them on, off, and delete. So we're trying to make it as simple as possible. Of course, they could access the console if they want. As well, they actually could go to their IPs and stuff like that just to go directly and access them. Yep. So at a few seconds, as you saw, I have my WordPress ready and running. I did not actually provide any network information, no infrastructure info, did not need to know much at all. Now, I see that's probably nodding, so you probably want to say something?
No, that's cool.
Any comments? Okay.
I'm listening. You go ahead.
All right. Okay. Just let's make sure you have a comment there. Okay. The other option, I mean, some more expert customers might actually want to customize the size of their deployment and so on. So actually, when they come and do Launchpad, they actually, this is we're going to do Tech Friday, again, WordPress 02. Rather than actually just hitting launch application, I actually could actually start digging more into the different custom settings I want to use, like which organization virtual data center I want to put it in. Maybe I have 2 different sites I'm deploying to at the cloud provider and stuff like that. So what size do I want to use? Maybe for some reason, the default size, which is my SP is using, is small, not fitting enough for me. I want to use the large for some reason. Maybe I want to choose certain IP schema. I want to run maybe a script at the beginning of the application run, all that kind of things. All of that is available for the customer as well to choose. Same as earlier, you just click launch application. A few seconds later, you have actually your application up and running and ready to be used.
Those tags there, are they VCD tags or vCenter tags?
These actually are VCD tags, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, these are VCD tags in there. So,
right.
And what else we have? Okay, so that's on the application there. As you can see, yeah, one more actually thing which I really like about this, especially when you push things through the Bitnami catalog, is the details of each application is actually provided for the end customer to see. So if I actually maybe let's use the WordPress as we deployed a couple of times from it. So if I actually click on it, I could see actually a full description of what that is doing and what the offering is about. So if a customer might see some application who's not familiar with and trying to figure out what it is, or trying to figure out the version of the application or the default size provided, they easily could come here and look at that. And this, as I mentioned, this was pushed by the Bitnami catalog to me. This as well could be modifiable for homegrown applications as well. So that's we could create those and modify them. The nice part here, I did not have to worry about doing any of this. It just pushed to me. I could show it to my customer right away.
Sure.
So that's as far as it goes from an end user. So let's actually look at what's the cloud provider interface look like, just to kind of give you an idea what an experience our providers will have.
Okay.
Just if I could remember my password hopefully here. Yes. Right, so MATLAB environment have loaded the normal cloud provider interface that everybody familiar with. All I have to do, come to App Launchpad in here. Give it a second to load. I mean, it's a home lab running in nested environment, so it's gonna take its own time.
Yep, no problem.
And as you can see here, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, you can see as a service provider which organization is utilizing your things and your App Launchpad, and which one is using them the most, and what kind of application as well is being used the most. What's top organizations, top applications. Pretty helpful when you start trying to figure out what you want to actually do, or like which one should go into actually to be your top application or your featured applications in the environment and so on. If I remember, you can actually come here. This will actually show you in each application that you have how many instances running, and they're running by how many applications. So if you remember when I mentioned earlier, you can figure out which one is the most popular, then maybe make it featured. That's kind of where you're getting that information from.
So yeah, just to
That's
kind
right.
of look at that. So from a charging perspective, then what would you recommend a service provider use to understand what organizations, maybe you've got an application that you want to charge for. How would you recommend they get that information out of here? Would that be using the tags perhaps?
Yeah, they could use the tags. I mean, if they, depending on how many applications they're publishing, if they're publishing quite a bit of them, they probably run the tags. And I mean, our like tenant app chargeback capability actually could do that. That they could build based on the tag.
Right.
The other option, I mean, as you can see, they can actually get which organization using which application. So if they're having a limited number of applications, they just want to check it from the App Launchpad. That's another situation to do it. I could see a lot of providers as well might be offering those applications as a complementary service just to grow their usage as well. So it depends on the provider and what kind of model they can adopt in that perspective.
And it looks like here you've got multiple catalogs running. Can you just explain what that means? So you're not having, is it, or can it be a catalog per tenant?
Yeah, actually, you can do that, but you probably do not want to do it per tenant. I mean, you probably will create some standard catalogs and publish them to multiple tenants. You might want to have different flavors of catalogs. You might have a developer-ready catalog, you might have databases catalog, and so on, depending on how you want to cut things up. And the thing is, when you publish, for example, from Bitnami to App Launchpad, I'll actually choose which catalog I want to push the images to. So I might actually have I might decide to have a database catalog and push all the databases to it. I might have a blogging catalog where I push WordPress and the similar to, and stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way to access that. I mean, if you want to do it per tenant, you can, but I think it will be just overwhelming. I think it'll be just too much.
Yeah, okay.
This actually kind of where you decide which catalog you're going to publish to what tenant. Now, because I have all my actually catalog being published to my tenants, if I hit here, actually, as you can see, I have 3 of them. If I actually decide, for example, let's say Bitnami 01 is one of the catalogs I have, then I could choose which tenant I want to publish it to. And those are the only tenant that will see it when I choose to do that. So that's kind of how I choose which tenant to go to. Mm-hmm. These actually catalogs as well will show up in your Bitnami subscription when you go there. So when you try to push a Bitnami application, it will ask you which catalog you want to push it to. So it actually makes your life much easier in that perspective as well. Right, a few settings here. That's actually where I mentioned the different sizing. If you remember, like we saw those styles of the different sizes there. So those are totally controllable by the SPA, and they could decide what those are. And the one you set as default, that's actually the one that's being used when the end customer come and say, just deploy, I don't want to provide any information but the name of the application. So that's kind of make it really simple and easy for providers. One got you there, which I actually want SPs to be aware of. Make sure your small size or whatever default size you're choosing will fit most of your applications. Because if customer decided to do it without actually providing information, that's the default you're going to do. And if it's too small, that deployment could fail.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so this looks like it's a overall sizing for all applications, whereas you've got a ton of applications with different kind of requirements there, right? So can you tune it then per application?
I haven't seen that today yet, but it's a request that we have put, with the engineering team, but I don't know if that's when that's going to come. So the nice part, as you saw, if the particular size and the default does not fit, the customer could use a different sizing. Yeah. To be honest, the size here, which I use as a small, seems to fit like most of the application I deployed from the Bitnami catalog. So it seems like for most of those open source application, their footprint is not that huge usually. So for the 10 or 12 application I'd done, I was able to fit them with that. So
okay.
All right, so that's kind of from what they call it, from the App Launchpad. I think that's most of it. I could actually show you quickly what the Bitnami catalog look like as well. but I'm gonna need to stop sharing 1 second just to switch screen if you don't mind.
And while you're doing that, so you showed us the catalogs and the ability to publish the catalogs to tenants, but then you can kind of change the applications within the catalogs, can't you? So you can have different applications for different tenants within the catalogs. So you don't have to have the same catalog published to all tenants. What we saw was different catalogs being published different tenants, but you can then tune the applications within those individual catalogs, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, you can actually have different tenants seeing different catalogs, so you don't have to publish all the application to everyone.
Yeah.
And that's actually, I think, will get a lot more handy when in-house applications start being used, because a lot of those might actually have their own licensing schema, and that might become a challenge for some of our, what they call it, providers, like if they make it open to everyone, because it comes at an extra cost in that case. So for open source one, I mean, maybe making all the application available to every customer, it might change or might not change your costing, right? But if you actually start doing stuff like Microsoft SQL or Oracle or all that stuff, you might actually limit which customer you give it to based on your agreement with them and how you can charge them or not.
Yeah, got it.
Right, I'm just trying to log in to my app, to my catalog. Just give me a second there, if I could.
So you're now going to the kind of the Bitnami SaaS solution online in cloud marketplace, right?
Correct. Yeah, I'm just trying to log in there with my credentials. Just I want to make sure it don't. Like to be honest, I don't want to show that, and I don't want to show my credentials on the video. That's going to go public. So I think it's a good practice. Probably everyone probably agree on that. So all right. So actually, I just logged into the marketplace of the Bitnami catalog, which is, of course, I had a special subscription that's allowing me to go through that. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to have MSP subscription required. But as soon as you have that, you'll be presented with a catalog that look like what's on the screen here. So to make my life simple, what I do, I come and say browse all applications. And this kind of will give me the list of all applications out there. Then the next thing I like you to do, okay, that's still loading for a second. I like to create a filter here. I just want to see the Bitnami applications. I mean, because the catalog here is actually include a lot of ISVs as well that we're hoping to bring into, to be able to actually push the App Launchpad in the future as well. Then the next thing I want to choose is what kind of environment I want to deploy to. So I'm going to choose VMware Cloud Director. Now, service provider who actually might be using dedicated as well instances per customer. I mean, like there's a lot of our cloud provider guy that does not use VMware Cloud Director. I mean, some of them are still using probably a dedicated instance per customer. They can actually still go and consume the Bitnami application into those and still could publish them to vCenter, as you can see where it's say on-prem. As well, those who actually subscribe to VMware Cloud and AWS, they could consume it there as well. Just for now, for this demo, I'm just going to go and show the VMware Cloud Director one and how we push it to App Launchpad.
So the on-prem there, that just means basically vCenter, right?
Yeah, correct. That could be, but can be a hosted vCenter by the cloud provider, or it could be even the end customer have it on their prem as well. So
sure, okay.
And we can push to both. As I mentioned, I mean, for example, when I mentioned earlier, like when I'm setting up VMware Cloud Director, every now and then you actually need what they call it to do. Like to actually need some component that's actually open source, like a particular databases like MySQL, or you might need what they call it, as I mentioned, RabbitMQ or stuff like that. So those could be useful even before you had your portal up and running.
Sure.
I mean, who's from our cloud provider does not need RabbitMQ? I mean, everybody who's setting up the cloud director almost going to need RabbitMQ at one day or another. So it's good to actually come here and be able to just download that image, plug it in, and use it rather than actually having to build it from scratch, right?
Yeah.
All right. So now actually I filtered the application. As you can see, there's about 126 applications that's ready for me to push into my cloud. So I'm just going to choose one that I hope I haven't just pushed into my cloud so far. I think this shopware, I probably haven't published it to my catalog yet, but who knows, I actually published 10 of them earlier. So hopefully this one wasn't included there. So as you can see, I could see a description of what that's look like, what's the costing of it, what's the different versions that they have, and so on, and the format and all that kind of things in there. Now I have two options as well with this. I could actually download it directly to my laptop if I actually want to go and publish things manually. Not what I'm going to do now, because I want to publish it directly to App Launchpad so I could keep all the information in there. So what I do for that, I hit the subscribe button in here. Now, as you can see, all the different 3 platforms that's being supported show up directly on the screen there. So I have VCD, VMC, and on-prem. All of them could be a target. So maybe I'm going to just choose vCloud Director. Here it asks me actually which version of the product I want to do. So like seems like Shopware have so many versions, and different customer might want a different version for different reasons. So even as an SP, I could actually go and publish multiple of these versions to my App Launchpad catalog. So it's my choice which version I want to do. For now, I'm going to choose the last one, the most recent one. It's like a here actually I have to provide my information to log into the environment and publish it. Let's see if I could get that correctly. Yes. As you can see, now it's giving me the catalog name. Then after that, I could just come in here. So now it's actually, this is where actually it asked me if I want to do allow auto updates, so to always push the latest versions to my environment if I wanted to. Here actually, I'm not going to do that, but that's an option, as you can see.
Let's just talk about the versions for a second. So whilst we're on the screen, you got an app version 6.1.5-1 here. If Bitnami, well, if the product itself, this shopping product, whatever it was we were doing, if that brings out a new version and then Bitnami tests that version, they go through all the security tests, all the application tests they do, and they package it, they might issue a -2, let's say. Now, there's no upgrade for customers who have deployed an app version /1, right? They would then have the option to deploy a net new /2 and do a data migration into that, but they wouldn't be able to do an automatic upgrade.
Yeah, correct. We're not doing the updates for existing application, but
Okay.
we're allowing a new customer that coming in and want to use the newer version to have it.
So in that case, you kind of do need to keep a number of versions back, because there may be specific changes, and you can't always hop from one major version to the next. You might have to do a version in between if you're a customer.
Yeah, and the other thing, I mean, the other reason you want to keep versions, as I mentioned, sometimes like some of the applications require a particular version. Like I have a certain blog, like in my blog, for example, I require some of the extension I have in my blog with the plugins require a particular Python version. So if I upgrade, it's just break.
Yeah, sure. Okay, that makes sense. So auto update here, we'll just download the latest version, and our recommendation would be, keep us, keep a few versions on there at least.
Correct.
Yeah. It doesn't really hurt, right? It's a small amount of disk space.
Exactly. So for me, I'm not going to do that. It's a lab environment, but in production, you probably want to allow to push a few of those. Then, of course, you're going to have to accept the ULA in there, the ULA agreement. You hit accept, hit finish, and it will just start pushing it now to your environment. So that's kind of basically how you push a new application into the environment, which is quite simple and easy, as you can see. If you remember your catalog name as well as your login. It sounds like I put the password incorrectly, which is I did not modify, which is I assume it was there. It's correct, but okay, let's see. All right. It's see if it's remember me now. No.
Yeah, don't worry. I think from the point of view of the functionality here, I can see exactly what it's doing. And okay, let's give it a try.
Yeah, just as I mentioned, it's like remembering all my password, unless it's just being a lab. I'm just testing it for the past few days. It's so now, as you can see, just subscribe, and it will just probably, if I look at my VCD, I'll see that start deploying things in there as well somewhere. So let's see, actually, if I look here, probably, yeah, as you can see, it start pushing the application directly in my environment.
That's awesome, and that's so easy to do. To deploy that application really quickly. And then, of course, it's going to be available for tenants if you push that catalog to the tenant, right?
Yeah. After that, I mean, you just have to go back to. I mean, after it's getting deployed, you will see the application in your. Sorry, not the wrong extension. The App Launchpad, and as a service provider, if that catalog is made already available to the customer, then it's there. If you actually need to make, if you actually put in a new catalog that's not published to the customer, then you need to add it.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense.
Or publish it, but yeah.
Okay, that's awesome, Iyad. Listen, thank you very much for running us through this today. This is, I think, this is going to be very, very interesting for service providers who are looking to broaden their portfolio and provide more kind of easy to consume applications to their tenants, and particularly if their tenants are, got development requirements and stuff like that, because I can see there's a big appeal there for developers. So thank you very much. I think great demo, and look forward to the next session where we'll dive into some homegrown applications.
All right, thanks for hosting me, and keep in touch. We'll look forward for the next session.
Thanks
Cheers.
a lot.
Thank you. Bye.